Hello, everyone. My name is Tara, and welcome to Aligning to Love. In this channel, I aim to spread hope, joy, peace, and love to the world by sharing goodness and love within my life. In this video, I'm going to give some family updates, school events, and things that are going on in my life, and the different signs that I've seen along the way. So jumping right into things, in the previous video, I had talked about the kindergarten and first grade performance that was happening on Wednesday this past week, and I'm going to take off right from there. So after the kindergarten and first grade wide mouth show, we had an amazing turnout. Like I said in the last video, I think we had close to 100 people show up, and we were only thinking 50 parents would be there because it was in the middle of the day and not everyone can take time off of work. We also had other grade levels come to watch the performance in the gym, so that was excellent. So kids who had younger siblings or just wanted to see a younger performance and what that was like, they got the experience to do so. So after the play was over and the students got dismissed, the teachers and we all helped take down the set and put everything away. And the music teacher helped so much, and we stored everything in her big closet. But it was so funny. We had to put things in just right so everything would fit, because she still needed lots of space so that if there was ever a lockdown drill, she could fit her whole class in that closet. So it was a lot like a Tetris game, trying to make sure everything was fitting and snug in there so that there'd be room for students. After this breakdown was done, I was able to leave school and meet a friend for an afternoon refreshment, and that was really nice. It was a hot day. We were going to go for a walk to get more fresh air and just some exercise in after our stressful days of school, but it was 90 or 92 degrees out, and we were just thinking that after our long day of work, we were already exhausted. We didn't need to have anything happen to us and get overheated. So we decided to go to a restaurant. We had some snacks and a nice drink, and that was really fun. It was so funny because once I got to the restaurant, it was a crazy day, so I just needed to use the restroom. And by the time I sat down back with her at the table and got my menu, I quickly looked at my phone and it was 333. And it was exactly what I needed in this time to be able to de-stress and take a breather with a really good friend of mine. And it was perfect. And we got to catch up both about our parts of the play and how our week had been and different students that we work with, and basically catch up, because there's a lot of time where we're interacting with the same students, but we may not be able to know all the details that happen with the time that they're with us. So in order to have a full spectrum and a bigger picture of how that person's day had been, we need to be able to collaborate and be able to discuss. So we did some discussing of students, but then a lot of the discussion was just on our personal life, which was really fun, and how we were both doing and how we're taking it one step at a time at the end of this busy school year. And she's just such a lovely person and a warm disposition, and I love having laughs with her. It's great. So I was really thankful to be able to have that after school on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Thursday was a hectic day of school, but it was a little bit more calmer because the play was done, so we had a normal day. And at the end of the school day, my husband had texted and said, "Oh, we need some things for dinner." And so once I was able to catch things up with my students and colleagues and get some paperwork and other behind the scenes things done at school, I went out to our local co-op, and it was a hectic day on Thursday. For some reason, it was back-to-back bumper, which it usually never is in our town. And there were so many people out and about, which I guess was good, but it was crazy busy. And when I was driving to go to the co-op, I couldn't even make the turn into the co-op because it was just a line of cars, and even with the lights turning green, I didn't have the time to go. So I ended up having to keep going past the turn of the co-op and go in a different route and turn around to get to it. And it was hysterical because on the way to turn around, I pulled into the townhouse, or I think it's the courthouse. And one of the cars in the courthouse said on their license plate, Path 2. And I thought that was hysterical because I was on my second route. I was taking a different path to get to where I needed to be. And I just thought the universe and the angels and the spirit guides, they were being comical when they showed me that license plate. And then so I finally turned around that parking lot, got back on track, and I was now in the opposite direction to pull back into the co-op. And I got in, luckily, but then none of the parking spots were open. And I felt like it was just, I didn't think I was going to get one. And then as I was going down the line of cars, I saw another license plate and it said Fish On. And I just thought it was so humorous because I did feel like I was trying to catch a fish and nothing was biting. And I did end up getting a parking lot way down the line. And so that was good. And I got in the co-op. I got what I needed for dinner and for our other foods and materials that we needed for our apartment and our life. And then I went back home. But I thought it was so funny that it was those license plates that I saw in those moments of my life that just matched perfectly to what I was feeling and what was happening. So I wanted to share that. On Friday, it was really a nice day of school. It was a lot cooler than Wednesday and Thursday had been. We were back in the high 70s and 80s instead of in the 90s. So it did feel a lot cooler. And it was a gray day. It was really cloudy in the morning and overcast, so that kept it cooler as well. And we were supposed to get some thunderstorms in the afternoon, but they hadn't happened yet. And Thursday was less busy than Wednesday, and Friday was really nice because it was less busy than Thursday. So as my week progressed, it went from chaotic and then finally into a slower pace that was manageable with the students, but also with my personal life. And it was fun because on Friday I got to hear stories from my students. One of my students who is such a funny student, and he's so sweet, and he's an excellent storyteller. He was talking all about how his family for the last month or two had been building a chicken coop, and that they're getting their chickens, and in a little bit they'll be getting a rooster. And he was just giving so many details of all the weekends that they decided to work on it and all of the steps they had to take. And his mom had emailed me a picture of him sitting in the chicken coop feeding his chickens, and it was so funny because his mom called them his ladies, and it was just so cute. And he did such a great job telling his share and his picture story. So the class really loved it. I really loved it. And then we had another student come up. She shared some photography photos that her father had sent in about a family photo shoot that they had recently been in this field. And it was so beautiful, and it was so nice to see other people in the family that she talks about, and just seeing their beautiful faces in this gorgeous landscape that they had their pictures done. And I love the shares that our students do because it gives me more insight to them and their personality and also their family life, which I love. And then we also had another student tell me that she was in a dance recital and she was hoping that she could do a share next week with pictures or a little video clip of her doing her dance routine. So hopefully next week we'll be seeing that, and I can't wait to see it. I love hearing all of the extracurricular or other activities that students do with their families, and even if it's not activities or hobbies, just what they like to do when they're not in school and what their day looks like or their weekends look like. I love getting to learn more about the people and the students in my life and their families, because when you're at school, it's all, well, I don't make it all about the academics. The school that I'm in, and I personally make it all about the relationships. So it's really important for me to hear about their whole life, and it's important for others to hear about what they do in their day and what makes them who they are, and not just the student that they are at school, because you don't know everything about someone just because you're with them all day. So I've really tried to take more time for students to share their personal lives, and I'm really happy that I did. On Friday, we also had students that I've had in the past, and it was their birthdays. And so I got to hug students that it was their birthday that I've had in the past. And there were two girls that I had two years ago. One of them I had 2 years ago, and then the other girl was in the class next door to mine, and I got to wave to her. But it was so great because this student was somebody that I formed a really nice relationship with, and it was just, it was so sad when I had to take a year off for when I had my baby, because some of these students, with the relationships you build, you really need consistency to maintain it, depending on what they're going through and just their life circumstance. And I was really glad the year that I came back to be able to keep building that with her. She came down to kindergarten, gave me a hug at the beginning of the year, but I haven't really gotten to see her very much since then. And we wave in the hall, and sometimes she gives me hugs in the hall, but I really wanted to make it a priority to be able to see her and give her a big hug on her birthday. And her little brother is not in my class, but he is in one of our kindergarten classes. So we always have that to talk about whenever I see her, and she's like, "How's he doing?" And it's just so heartwarming, and it makes me so happy and filled with joy that I'm able to give that relationship more love and care, especially on her birthday. Another student of mine that I had in the past came down to give me a cupcake, and he was so sweet, and it was so thoughtful whenever kids come to give you cupcakes, because there's not many cupcakes usually that are left, and students get to go down and give different teachers in the building ones that they really want to make sure that get a cupcake. And I was honored that he came down to give me a cupcake with another friend of his that I also had in second grade. And I just was so happy to see the two boys, and they gave me hugs, and I got to wish them well on their way. And it was so funny because one of the boys, the boy whose it was his birth, I can't talk. The boy who was celebrating their birthday, his mom and I had jury duty 2 years ago. And she was one of the first parents that I told that I was pregnant when I had Juniper, when I found out that I had Juniper. And it was just, I love their family. I love all the families that I have, but it was just really nice to see him and to just tell him that, "Hey, tell your mom I said hi." And it was just a really fun Friday and a really relaxing Friday to end the week. And I was just so thankful I had all these fun things to do with my students and past students. It was also the second grade pollinator presentations, and I was thrilled because I used to teach second grade, and I used to be the one getting the students ready to present these presentations to families and the other staff members and all of the other grade levels at our school. And for once, it was nice to be on the other end of that, getting to go up and see the presentations. And they did such a marvelous job. The kids were loud speaking voices. They had their PowerPoint presentations with different pollinators like bats and butterflies and birds. And they talked all about milkweed and how monarch butterflies need milkweed and how they travel across the country to go down to Mexico. And they were just spectacular. The families enjoyed it, the other grade levels enjoyed it, and I was glad I got to go up there. And it was a blast from the past because I got to go in my old room that I used to teach in. I got to see students that I used to have that when I was in that old room. So it just brought back all the feelings and memories, and I just loved it. After school on Friday, I did get to get home, get situated, and we were going to go out to the restaurant that my colleagues go to on Fridays after school to just relax and have a good time with each other and just enjoy life and also talk about our week, because we all get to experience the week working in the same building, but we may never actually get to talk to each other. And so that's one thing we always love doing. And it was the first time I was going to bring my husband and my daughter, because my colleagues always give me a hard time saying, "Oh, you had a baby, but we've never gotten to see her. She never comes to school because school is so hectic. So it's never a good time to bring her in." And so I'm like, okay, I'll bring her to our get together. And my husband, my daughter, and I, we all had a blast. And my daughter was a social butterfly. She loved going from people to people, being passed down the line and getting to say hello to my colleagues. And she loved walking around the restaurant, waving to people. And it couldn't have gone better, because we haven't really taken her to a social event with more than 6 or 7 people. And there was a lot more than that at this gathering. So I was really happy it went smoothly. It was torrential downpouring before we had left. So I was almost debating whether or not we should even take her, because I didn't want her to get sopping wet just to get in her car seat to go for the ride. But it was really nice. And I do think that there's reasons why things happen. And when it was torrential downpouring, we had to pause and we were waiting in the platform to see if the rain would slow down before we went to this gathering. And during that waiting time, Lois, who is my neighbor, and she's the one who just turned 90 this year, her sister had been coming to see her, and I got to meet her sister Dawn, and she was just as lovely as Lois, and she was so caring, and she was excited to meet Juniper and my husband and myself. And she was like, "Oh, I've heard about you. I've seen the pictures." And I was really happy that I got to meet a family member of Lois's, and it was perfect timing, because we all were just waiting and chatting before moving on to the next part of our day. And that was really, I was really thankful that the rain had started, so we had that opportunity to meet her. And it was funny, because right after we ended the conversation with her, the rain let up and we were able to go in the car, and Juniper didn't get soaking wet, and we had an excellent time with my colleagues at the gathering. And the same thing happened at the gathering. We were able to, my husband and I were able to eat dinner, because one of my colleagues held our daughter and entertained her throughout the whole time. And so my husband and I got to eat, which was excellent. We got to socialize, and then we took turns having my daughter back and forth. But my daughter was so excited to see other people that she was just going to everybody who wanted to hold her, which was fun. And we were about to head out of the restaurant, and then it started downpouring again. So again, we stayed and caught up with my friends and our colleagues. And there was a colleague there who I haven't seen hardly all year. And at lunchtime at the school, she's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'll be able to make it," but she did. So I was thrilled. And it was just such a joyful time with everyone. And the end of the year is so hectic, and I'm glad a lot of people were able to make it to this event. And so we left that event. I'm so happy that my daughter did well. And on Saturday, it was the celebration of life for our neighbor's husband, Lois's husband. And I wasn't really sure how Juniper would do for that. But it was another rainy day, and we went in the car, and I actually wore this outfit to it. My mom gave me this earlier this spring, and I wore this dress to the concert for my K through kindergarten class is the K through second grade concert. So I wore it to that event, and then I also wore it yesterday. And my daughter wore her Easter dress, and my husband got spiffy as well. And we got in the car to go, and I realized I was like on empty. And I was praying, because we didn't pull over to get gas before we left, and I was praying that we would make it to the church without getting stranded. I was really praying very hard, and we did. We made it to a little gas station. We put half a tank in there and then kept going on to the church. But I was actually really nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, I should have put more gas in this yesterday before this event. But luckily, everything worked out. And the church was beautiful and the town was gorgeous. We hadn't been over in that area, so it was really nice to be able to go to a new location and just observe different environments. And I was so happy we went, and the Celebration of Life service was beautiful. It was a really amazing tribute to his life. I got to hear so many stories that were just heartfelt, and there's lots of laughter and lots of just so many great stories of who this person was. And again, my husband and I didn't get to really know him too well, and so the stories really brought that out for us. And that was an hour service, and my daughter did amazingly. We had brought Cheerios so that she could eat them, and we brought little toys for her that didn't make any noise. And so many people came over to us after and said, we didn't even know there was a baby there. She did so wonderfully. And I was very happy because babies are unpredictable. You don't know if they're going to be able to manage being content. And I was just very thankful that she did, so that we could really celebrate Hank and his service and his life. And I was just so filled with happiness. The music was beautiful, the stories were incredible, and I was just really glad that I could be there for Lois and for the time that we had with her family and the friends that knew Hank best. And it was really great because the nurse that had been working with him was also there. She had been his nurse for years, and I had gotten to know her very well, and she had gotten to know my husband and our daughter, and it was just really lovely. And other neighbors from the apartment downstairs came as well. So it was really nice to be in our little community in a different location. And then we also went down for the reception afterwards, and we got to hug Lois, and we got to talk with our other neighbors in the apartment, but we also got to communicate and just have really nice conversations with other people in the church and in that community. And they were so welcoming, and they gave us a high chair for our daughter so that she could eat and we could eat. And it was just beautiful people in a peaceful environment, and everyone was so happy, and I just was so calm, and it was such a loving day. And leaving the Celebration of Life, I just felt at peace. I felt happy for Hank and Lois and their families who came to celebrate Hank, and it couldn't have gone better. We could have had sun out, but the sun did. The rain stopped at the end of the Celebration of Life. The sun was peeking out a little bit, but it couldn't have gone better. And it was just a really nice way to end the week and to be close with people who mean a lot to us. And I was just so thrilled. It was such a highlight of my week. And then today is we even got out for a walk after that afternoon, and it was just a slow-paced day, which I really needed and my family really needed, and it was really meaningful. It was I can't even say enough good things about it. Oh, the one other thing I did want to talk about is at the Celebration of Life, one of the speakers went up, and they had talked about a story that I had read online before years ago. And it was about a professor who was talking about, is this jar filled? And first he filled it with lots of big rocks, and he would ask, is this jar filled? And the students in the college class would say, oh yes. But then he would go on and put little pebbles in, and to the students' amazement, it was not completely filled yet. And then he would ask again with the little pebbles and the big rocks, is it filled? And the students would say, yes, of course, now it's filled. And then the professor was like, nope, it's not completely filled yet. And then he would put sand in it. And then he would say, is it filled? And the students would say, yes, now it has to be filled. But in the story that the speaker said at the Celebration of Life, he went on, and in the story and the description, he went on to say that the professor then said, the big rocks are the things that are the most important and matter, and they are your family members. They are the people in your life that even if everything else was taken away, you would still have everything you need because they are the most important parts of your life. And then he went on to say the little pebbles in the jar represent the other necessities of life that you need to support your family. And those are things like your job, or the way that you make money, and things that make your life easier to help your family, like if you're fortunate enough to have a car, and if you're fortunate enough to have other things in your life that help you and your family. And then the sand is all the little things in life, the little things that may not get done, tasks or responsibilities, or things that you think are important, but if you let them go, they don't really mean much. And I love that story, and I love that it was shared at the Celebration of Life, because it really does put things in perspective. It really helps people realize that, yeah, life is all about the people and the relationships. And if everything else is taken away, even if your home and your house or your apartment is taken away, as long as you have the people that you love, you have everything. And it also shows to let the small stuff go. Don't worry about so much of the little things that don't matter. And I just felt so happy listening to that story, and it was a big takeaway and a big reminder for day-to-day life. And so that was the rest of my weekend. Today, I have a lot of report cards. I have a lot of things I need to get ready for the school year, and things at home I have to get ready. But again, after listening to that story, I'm going to let the small stuff go. Whatever doesn't get done, it's going to be okay. And I just have had a very loving and peaceful weekend, and I hope that all of you do as well. I love you all. I hope you all take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.